Right. Joining us now with more on tonight's debate, well, we have two senators from South Carolina, Senator Tim Scott, Lindsey Graham, former 2024 presidential candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy. By the way, you all had more time scheduled, but Donald Trump stole it. What are you going to do? Lindsey, we're making you stand, so we're going to put you up first.
Well, this is the only time I'll ever be tall. I'm still not taller than him, and he said, yeah. Terribly moderated debate, 3 against 1.
Oh, it was awful.
The best closing in presidential debate history. If you could have done it, why didn't you do it? One thing I wish we'd have done a little bit better is I gave you the most secure border in 40 years. When I left, mortgage rates were below 3%. Gas was $1.87. We're energy independent. We're getting the Arabs and the Israelis making peace, and you screwed it all up, and you're never going to fix it.
It's amazing how much we don't know about her radical positions after this debate, because ABC sucked that bad.
Yes.
They did.
They really did.
And every position she's ever had, it's like a jailhouse Jesus conversion. What she believed before, she doesn't believe again. I look at it as a Kamala to BC. Before the convention, she was absolutely opposed to fracking. The energy industry has been decimated under this administration. Think about the border.
She lied when she said she changed her position in 2000.
Yes, 100%.
Totally.
It wasn't just that, though. The border, she now wants a wall. They've allowed the greatest invasion in the history of our country to pour across our southern border.
The people in South Carolina, I am sure, have no problem with free housing, health care, education, and sex change operations for illegal aliens and convicted felons. I mean, how do you not ask that question? How do you not ask it?
We need moderators that are not an extension of the Kamala Harris for President campaign.
That's true.
So, I'm always going to give it to you straight. So a few things I would say is, did she exceed the very low expectations that were set for her? Yes, she did. That being said, if you're going to fact check one candidate, you can't not, or perceived fact check, some of those weren't even real fact checks, you have to apply the same standard to the other candidate. They absolutely failed to do that tonight. I do think the strongest moment for either candidate that'll matter 3 weeks from now is actually Donald Trump being crystal clear on his position on abortion. Kamala Harris and their campaign have consistently been stating outright, as though it's a fact, that he would sign a federal abortion ban. He did a good job tonight saying that this is an issue for the states. It's an issue where different Republicans may even differ. But he got a chance to make his position known on one of the issues where Democrats were trying to hang Republicans out to dry. And I thought he excelled at that. It's the most underappreciated part of tonight.
I actually think you're right on the money here, because I think the reason we didn't have the red wave in 2022 was because of that issue. And it was demagogued to death and lied about. And what do you think some of the best moments were?
His closing.
What?
His closing.
Yeah.
Everything you say you're going to do to make our country better, you've had 3.5 years. Where have you been?
Why don't you go back to Washington tonight?
Why don't you go do something while you're still in power? We're a nation in decline. He made the case we're going in the wrong direction, and he nailed it at the end by saying, you're all talk. You're not going to pass a bill to restore Roe v. Wade.
That was a good moment, too.
You're not. You're all talk.
He's already done it. You know the numbers as well as anybody. You're brilliant. The lowest unemployment rate for demographic groups all across the country under his 4 years. The poorest Americans had their wages growing faster than the richest Americans. We saw funding for HBCUs hit a record number under Donald Trump. Here's a president that created more than 7 million jobs, 2/3 going to women and minorities. But beyond that, a 9% raise for our military. The President of the United States is a strong commander-in-chief. No ground wars in Europe, no forced invasion in Israel. We need 4 more years of Donald Trump.
I look at the situation on the border. Free housing, health care, education, and sex change operations. But more importantly, we have all these dead Americans. It's not just Laken Riley and Rachel Morin and Jocelyn Nungary. It is dozens and dozens of murdered Americans, raped Americans, violent crimes against Americans, the cost to Americans, and we have known terrorists in the country. Now, Lindsey, I bring this up to you, and I see your face go white every time. It is how is every American not like wanting that border secure.
So I thought on the substance, Trump nailed it on the abortion question, but my favorite moment of the debate was actually on this question.
Why?
Where the essence of this debate was Kamala Harris's words versus her action. Actions speak louder than words. And where I think Donald Trump nailed it was that moment in the debate where he looked at her and said, why don't we just end this now? You go back to Washington, D.C., and you and your boss either sign a bill or sign an executive action closing the border now. Is that more important than anything we could have said tonight? They don't need legislation. And I think the way he highlighted that almost gets to the philosophical core of tonight's debate. Right. It's all talk. You have the chance to go with action to actually solve that problem, and you're not. For me, I thought that was the single most powerful moment where he landed on the single most important issue in this election, which is mass illegal migration into the country.
And we didn't even get to our high taxes, unrealized capital gains. There's so much on the table.
Tomorrow is 9/11 in about 30-something seconds. I've never been more worried about another 9/11 for two reasons. Our withdrawal from Afghanistan put us every terrorism on steroids and a broken border.
All right, guys, good to see you all. Appreciate it.